What if I told you that you can get an epic watch for just $50? Well, this video features watches with insane lume, watches with 200 meters of water resistance, and watches with eye-watering value for money. I've rounded up the 10 very best watches for enthusiasts under $50, and I can guarantee that even the most experienced of watch collectors haven't seen all of these watches before. If the best spec for the money is what you want, then this next watch is unquestionably the one for your collection. My mind is still blown as to how this watch is even so cheap. The spec sheet just doesn't add up when compared with the price. The margin the manufacturer is making on this watch must be thinner than a slice of Subway cheese. This watch features an automatic movement, sapphire glass, and 200 meters of water resistance for just $50. How crazy is that? What's even crazier is that this isn't just a random Chinese mechanical movement inside. This watch features the reliable Seiko MH2 which is a movement used in watches costing 5 times the price and sometimes even more. Now, I'm sure that this movement has had zero regulation, but that's something that we can do ourselves at home. The sapphire crystal on this piece also isn't standard. It features some anti-reflective treatment on the underside, which is more than Seiko and Orient do with their entry-level sapphires. And having 200 meters on a watch of this style is obscenely unnecessary, but us watch enthusiasts love that sort of craziness. The case on this watch is made from stainless steel and actually has pretty decent finishing. The size at just 39mm is also perfect for the majority of wrists. The lume on the dial is way better than any $50 watch has any right being. This watch is simply an anomaly at this price point. It puts pretty much every watch you compare against it in terms of value to shame. But it's important to remember that this isn't the norm. Most brands can't produce anything like this. They simply have way too many overheads and too many bills to pay. But somehow Addiesdive has created this watch for just $50. I don't know how, but they have. I will leave links for all the watches featured in this video down in the description. Some of you may already know that this brand, Lorus, is a subsidiary brand of Seiko. Basically, it's Seiko's way of producing super affordable watches without putting the Seiko name on the dial, protecting the Seiko brand and making it more exclusive. But don't let that unusual brand name on the dial fool you with this one. This watch has all the qualities of a Seiko without the Seiko label. This is, of course, a classic field watch, styled after various military watches from World War II. This watch, however, does have a trick up its sleeve, a trick that you won't find from another brand at this sort of price point. Some of you may already be aware of Seiko's reputation when it comes to creating fantastic luminescence. Their Lumibrite is held in high regard by the majority of enthusiasts for its brightness and longevity. Well, this Lorus watch is drowning in Lumibrite. However, instead of just on the hands and markers, the whole dial is covered in lume. That means that this watch has a ridiculous lume shot, up there with the very brightest in this department regardless of price. I've often referred to this dial as the nuclear reaction because it glows like it's emitting radiation. The black hands and markings allow for the perfect legibility regardless of lighting conditions, making this basic Lorus field watch one of the best tools for daily use. The sandblasted steel case is pretty basic, the flat mineral glass is absolutely standard, but the 100 meters of water resistance is more than welcome. The supplied single pass NATO is also pretty decent. You won't need to swap it out immediately like most others on this video. I owned the Lorus titanium field for over a year and I beat the crap out of it. I can't recommend these little Lorus field watches enough. They offer some of the best bang for buck in the affordable market, hands down. Now, this next watch is new to me. I only picked it up to make this video, in fact, but my word, am I impressed. I don't know why I keep allowing Casio to shock me, but I do. I keep expecting their watches to be absolute trash for their ridiculously low prices, and they never are. Surely Casio has to deliver a pile of garbage at some point, right? Well, it's certainly not with this one. In the few days that I've owned this watch, it's already made me want to keep it longer. I think that Casio decided to make the ultimate budget tool watch with this option. They've decided to make a dive style watch with unmissable legibility and the smoothest bezel action that I've ever experienced. Admittedly, this is only a friction fit bezel, so no clicks here, but it's buttery smooth. If you've ever tried a friction fit bezel before, let's say on something like a Vostok, let me tell you, they don't even compare. This bezel feels like it's floating in the clouds when twisting it. It has enough tension to be super satisfying, but not too little to move around all day and be annoying. A quick glance at the dial reveals the time to us in milliseconds, because this Casio has made the numerals and hands contrast effortlessly with that black dial surface. Those numbers really do punch through the glass, and if quick timekeeping is what you need, then it's been delivered. The case and crystal on this watch is your typical resin affair, so that crystal will polish up nicely with a bit of polywatch if it does scratch, but it's the sizing of this watch that's really got me. This is a 43mm cased watch that wears so much smaller. It's honestly comfier than some 39mm I've worn in the past, and I don't know whether it's because of the black case, but the watch looks so much smaller on the wrist too. Casio as always delivers a brilliant watch, but for the $25 price tag, this one is definitely up there with the very best. Now, some of the more experienced collectors out there will know a lot of the watches on this video. This one though, I don't think you will. Unless you're from Germany, where this watch brand is based, I highly doubt that in fact. This watch is for my collectors who have an average or above average wrist and need an elegant dress watch. It's rare to find something classical yet original offered in a dress piece at this price, yet Bergmann has delivered exactly that. This dial design looks like it's been plucked right out of the early 20th century, with a simple rail track print for the minutes and a font choice that looks prehistoric. The colour of this dial is also a hard one to work out. It's a hard one to crack. It absolutely has some creamy tones, but then kind of yellow, but also minty green. Dare I call this dial dynamic for that reason? Nonetheless, it adds a nice dimension to this watch's otherwise boring design. The squared case is much larger than your typical tank style watch. It does fit small wrists like mine, but this style of watch always looks better when it's bordering on being too small rather than being the perfect fit, in my opinion. The spec sheet is again super basic. A quartz movement is taking care of the timekeeping, a mineral glass covering the dial, and a stainless steel case housing the movement. But given that this is a dress piece, I expect this watch to not meet enough stress to test these elements to the max anyway. Now, the supplied strap on this watch must have taken a couple of blue pills because, my god, it's stiff. Now, you could just break this in, but my advice would be just to swap it out. I fully recommend this for a collector who wants a larger tank style watch by a super under the radar watch brand. And if you thought that the suggestions so far in this video have been pretty good, then can you drop me a like rating and subscribe to the channel? I make videos like this every single week. Cheers! If you want a combination of decent specs with a watch that looks like it costs much more, then I think this might just be the one for you. This watch features 3 different dial options, all inspired by nature. One looks like a sandy beach freshly swept by an ocean current. Another looks like a beautiful wavy turquoise ocean. And the last looks like freshly fallen snow. The yellow sandy option seems to be the most popular amongst enthusiasts, but don't neglect the other 2. The dial finishes on these watches give off proper Grand Seiko vibes on a Casio budget. You don't typically see dials with this much detail at this sort of price. You do somewhat sacrifice some specs for this beautiful dial design though. The glass covering the dial is only a piece of mineral. It does feature a beautiful dome and plenty of AR though, and although we do see a smooth sweep with that seconds hand, this is not a mechanical movement. Instead, this watch implements the Seiko VH31 module. This is a mecha quartz movement that delivers a mechanical-like sweep with a quartz crystal taking care of the timekeeping. But the good parts of this watch vastly outweigh the bad. The quality of the bracelet is outstanding for the money. The solid end links and milled clasp is seldom seen at this price point. The screw down crown and case back delivers an impressive 100 meters of water resistance, making this a true go anywhere and do anything piece. I don't think you buy this watch because you want the best spec for the money. You buy this watch because you want the best attention to detail for the money. That dial alone makes this one a standout for the price. But when you throw in the great case design, brilliant bracelet, and good all-round spec sheet, it makes this a must-consider watch. Now, this next Casio is slightly pushing the budget a little bit, maybe by like $10, but it's absolutely worth it. I think that most will expect the Casio Duro to feature on this video, and it is a fantastic watch that you should absolutely consider if you have a larger wrist. But for average and smaller wristed enthusiasts like myself, then this is the great option. Casio doesn't just make one 200 meter 200-meter capable diver in their catalogue. This Casio is the lesser known sibling to the Duro. It shares its impressive 200 meters of water resistance, however, it comes in with a 40mm case diameter, meaning that this is the perfect option over the Duro for someone with a smaller wrist. The bezel action is a bit strange on this watch. It's nice and smooth, but everything doesn't line up because of the 90 clicks, which is a shame because the aluminium bezel insert is a thing of beauty. It gives this watch real vintage vibes without the eye-rolling faux patina and rivets on a bracelet. Speaking of, that bracelet is hot garbage, so you'll want to swap it out almost immediately. Thankfully, the fan favourite 20mm lug width delivers endless strap options. Sure, the Duro is a more basic, classical dive watch design, but if you want something with a bit more personality, then this Casio 1053 certainly delivers that. You won't find many big brand names on dials for under $50. Seiko, Orient, Tissot, Citizen, they all usually start their watches around the $100 price tag. One huge brand that you can get on the dial though at this price is Timex, and I think that this Timex watch is actually amongst the best in the catalogue in terms of value. If you need a military inspired piece, then this might just be the one. Now this Timex watch is offering a super basic spec sheet, and honestly a super basic design too, but sometimes less is more. This watch isn't trying to masquerade as a more expensive watch like most others do at this price. It's just content knowing it's doing its own job pretty well. The case of this Timex is only made from plastic, which has the huge upside of making this watch incredibly lightweight. The quartz movement is loud, but it's always on time. The crystal is only a piece of acrylic, but again, this saves weight and also reduces a chance of shattering. I think that the proportions of this watch will also suit a lot of people too. But it's Timex's Indiglow technology that is really the standout feature here. Pushing the crown inwards illuminates the entire dial, delivering the best low light legibility possible. This doesn't need charge from the sun like traditional LUME. A simple battery change every 3 years and you are good to go. I think that this is a perfect addition to a collection as a beta watch, with the field watch design lending it to this category ever so well. The case and crystal will undoubtedly show some scars, but it will be packed with character in no time at all. But it is that Timex name on the dial that makes this one a standout. Sure, there's plenty of watches available for under $50, but how many of them have a brand history as deep as Timex, which absolutely makes this watch a compelling option to consider at the sub $50 price tag. Now this next watch is a piece that I've been singing the praises of for about a year now, and I will continue to do so until every affordable collector has at least considered it. If you enjoy the look of the Cartier tank but don't fancy selling your kidney to buy a stainless steel quartz watch, then I'm sure this is a watch that will tickle your fancy. At face value, it's easy to think that this is just a crap cheap watch from AliExpress, and to some that might just be the case, but when you get this thing in hand, it grabs your attention. This watch has no right being as good as it is for this ridiculously low price. Yes, of course, it gets negative points when it comes to originality, with it just being a copy of the modern Cartier tank must, but again, when a watch is this cheap, we can forgive its sins. The dial printing on this watch is flawless. The black Romans sit against the metallic silver surface beautifully. Those tiny sword hands even feature a blue finish. Of course, this watch is only painted and not heat treated, but still, they look pretty cool. The biggest sacrifice with this watch comes in the spec department, because our money is being spread very thin here. The glass covering the dial is just a flat piece of mineral. The water resistance on this watch is probably minus 50 meters. But the biggest cost cut is the case. This Sanda watch only features a chrome plated metal, which means that this case can patina and lose its polished steel effect. But realistically, this watch will not see enough hardship to change the case anyway. I've had mine for a year now and it looks the exact same as the first day I bought it, and it's got a fair amount of wrist time too. But it's not all doom and gloom. The two-hand quartz movement is actually a Seiko module. The supplied strap and buckle is better than ones I've had on watches costing hundreds. This watch, including tax and shipping, will cost you less than $15. Yes, that's cheaper than the majority of Casio's catalogue. Now both of these next watches had to feature in this video because they're just that good. But they are both so similar that I didn't want to give them individual sections, because I think it's a choice of one or the other for the collection. Firstly, the classic. The Casio AE1200 is a bit of an icon now in the affordable watch world. It offers world time functionality that even the Swiss can't compete with. It features a ton of choice when it comes to colour with the watch, and there's also a plethora of mod options to transform the watch into a piece with high-end specifications. I had the silver AE1200 for a long time. It was actually one of the very first additions to my collection as an enthusiast. However, soon after I was gifted a different Casio from my mother. This Casio had a completely different set of functions on the watch, however it shared a very similar DNA. The Casio AE1300 looks more sporty and contemporary than the Royale, and after some time I actually started to prefer the look and functions of the 1300 over the 1200. I know that the world time feature is incredible for the price, and I also enjoy the quirky map on the display, but something about the 1300 with the yellow rings just appeals to me more. I've recently started running too, and this AE1300 is perfect for that, as this Casio is all about timing events, where the Royale is about timing the world. I think for most enthusiasts, the Royale is the better pick. The world time is a great addition to have in a collection, especially if you don't have a GMT. But if you want something that is a bit more sporty and modern, then this AE1300 would be my pick. Both fantastic watches, by the way, for sub $50, just slightly different styles and functions. But let me know what your favourite affordable Casio is down in the comments. One of the hardest things to find under $50 is a genuine dive capable watch. There's plenty of dive style watches out there, but what if you want 200 meters and nothing less? Well, I think I've found possibly the cheapest 200 meter capable watch on the planet. Some may instantly recognize that this watch has a bit of resemblance to the almighty Tag Heuer F1. You know, the one that got re-released recently for over $1,000. Well, this watch certainly doesn't cost that much, and it actually shares a very similar spec sheet. Quite funny that, isn't it? Indeed, this Sekonda watch comes in with a 200 meter water resistance rating, which is proudly printed on the dial beneath the handset. The rest of the dial is also printed, with the hour markers featuring a small amount of LUME and a date window at the 3 o'clock. This is a Sekonda watch, which is a brand popular here in the UK. So I find it really weird that they've printed Xpose on the dial, because it's not usually a word that's used in a positive manner. Dodgy branding aside, I like the overall design of this watch. The plastic bezel is an unusual choice, but it works for the price point. It is unidirectional, however, and features 60 clicks, albeit with some of the worst action you'll ever experience. The case of this watch features a hidden lug construction. One area though that doesn't fill me with confidence is the lack of a screw down crown. It is absolutely possible to achieve a 200 meter water resistance rating without one, but usually you only see this in watches costing much more. But given Sekonda is a huge brand here in the UK, I'm inclined to trust them on this. The supplied strap on this watch is stupendously horrible, so you'll have to swap it out immediately or your wife might actually leave you. But all of this can be forgiven when this watch costs a staggering £16 from Amazon UK, and it's available on eBay for $25 for my American viewers. But if you've watched this entire video and you've still not found your next watch, then go and watch my video here where I'm recommending 10 different watches to you. You might like one of them more, you might not. Go and check it out. I'll see you over there. Bye for now, guys.